Al says that all New Year's resolutions are made to be broken. So then every year his resolution is to take up smoking.
The Plein Air Easton podcast is brought to you by the Avalon Foundation, enriching the lives of those on the Eastern Shore of Maryland through the arts. Visit avalonfoundation.org for details on events, performances, and educational programming offered throughout the year.
Happy New Year, Marie. Welcome to the Plein Air Easton podcast. Today we talked to Murray Taylor.
We did. Murray was fascinating, and if you watch, which I highly encourage watching the video piece of it, because just listening to him and gazing at the beautiful artwork behind him is an experience in itself. But we really loved how he really had some concrete advice for artists, whether it's applying or whether it's out in the field or whether it has to do with their career. I feel like he's got some real useful advice there.
Amen. I think it was a great conversation. I think there's educational pieces, and I just think he's led a great art-filled life and existence. I think his energy is fantastic, and we hope you enjoy.
Welcome to the Plein Air Easton podcast. My name is Marie Nuttall, and I'm here with my colleague
Hi.
friend.
Hi, I'm Jess Bellis. It's good to see everybody. Happy New Year!
Happy New Year. We are talking to Plein Air Easton alumni and artist Murray Taylor today. Let's go.
Happy New Year, Murray. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great. It's good to see you two again.
Here's a question right off the bat. Do we believe in New Year's resolutions?
It's probably worth the effort, but just to say them, then gives us something to think about, but I'm not sure if I really pay much attention after January 1.
Yeah.
It's more of like a reflective exercise than like a real intention setting for most people. Like, yeah. I think that some people think that like they're made to be broken, so like don't even try.
No, I think it's worth the effort to think about.
Yeah, I think there's always space for self-improvement or aspirations, and the new year is like the biggest clean slate of all, right?
I guess so. I mean,
about
it is
the
like
ends of that calendar.
It is like another. I mean, but it's a calendar that's like sort of subjective, like
True.
Because I'm a nerdy finance person. My new year is like July 1st, so then I'm like, woohoo, Happy New Year! Nobody cares.
No.
Nobody cares.
It's gonna take a lot to get people on that side.
Well, I guess I could resolve to make sure that my life continues to be full of art. How about that?
Yeah.
Excellent. We can. That's great. That's a good one.
There you go. I think I can probably stand by it too. Well, welcome to the Plein Air Easton podcast, Murray. It's great to see you.
Well, thanks for having me. It's
so
great to be here.
We started trying to talk to him before we started the podcast, and I want to jump right back into that conversation, which is we're watching him, the video feed that we have for Murray. Like we said, he kind of looks like a pilot because he has on headphones like we do, but he has these just fantastic, very large scale paintings of the sky behind him. And some of them you can sort of see the sun setting, but I would say they mostly look like cloud studies, and you can see like a little bit of sky and snow behind him, and it almost looks like he is piloting some kind of aircraft because it's like a tableau of sky behind him. It's so impressive.
But it's like from reverse.
Yeah. Right.
He's doing it backwards.
Hopefully his co-pilot is the one who has control.
They're behind me. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a complicated angle. Murray, tell us about your studio.
Okay. So I've been in this space for over 20 years, and I love it. And when I moved in, this is one of the reasons I really love this place. It was way too expensive, but eventually they came around to my low price. I actually said, come up just a little bit and we'll go for it. That took about 6 months. But I'm so thrilled. This space was on a dairy farm. The structure I'm in right now used to be a building that was 50 by 100 feet with 3 tiny little windows and one big gigantic 15-foot garage door. And no air conditioning or heat or insulation or anything like that. So when I got here, I took out the 3 little windows and the garage door, and I put in 21 new, like energy efficient windows, and an arc back there. I don't know if you can tell, but that one's like facing north, a lot of north light, and the other windows are up high, and the floor I poured concrete and over radiant heat pipes,
Wow.
PEX. So right now, it's very chilly out, it's snowing, but the floor is warm, the air is not too warm, the air is probably 64 degrees, but because the floor is warm, I feel very warm, my feet are really happy.
Yeah.
And this has been the place that I paint for a long, long time. And if I walk out of here, there's lots of fields, like I said, it used to be a dairy farm, lots of places I could just walk and start painting in minutes.
Feel the inspiration of being outside.
Yes.
I love it. What percentage of your work do you do outdoors versus studio painting? Because again, you have this fantastic studio that obviously has a lot of space for large scale work, but we know you as a plein air painter from your time at Plein Air Easton.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of seasonal, right? So now we're in the time when I'm in the studio more and more, although I love painting in the snow, but mostly I do the large ones during the winter inside, and I do a lot of smaller paintings outside from spring through fall, and a lot of those become studies for the large paintings. But even in the summer, I'm painting in the studio some, and even in the winter, I'm painting outside some.
So kind of an even split, but depends on the season maybe.
Yeah.
And like Murray and I were looking at your work, and it is so much larger than the work that much of your work is so much larger in scale than the work that we're familiar with at Plein Air Easton. How many of your plein air studies actually are more like studies? Like, walk me through sort of your creative process in terms of sort of finding yourself to a finished work.
Right. So sometimes I go out with especially when I'm at Plein Air Easton, I'm always, trying to make a painting that's finished and is interesting to more people than just me. But a lot of times I'll go out and paint just for me with the idea that I really want to get a hang of the way the clouds look right now. And one of the things that gets me out a lot over the last couple of years is when the sky and the clouds, like the blue of the sky and the shaded part of the cloud, are about the same value. In fact, a lot of times the blue part of the sky will be a darker value than the darkest part of a cloud. And so I'm just going out there trying to capture that, which is a really interesting feeling. And I don't think I think most people would look at the sky and think, oh, the sky is always the brightest thing. And it's just not like that. So for me, I like to go out there and try and wrestle with those colors, those values. That's a fair amount of time. And then when I get that right, and it's not often, and sometimes it's only a tiny portion of a painting, I'll bring it in and try and recreate that, whatever I captured outside on a larger painting.
And if you are a podcast listener and do not take advantage of the video, I would encourage you at this point to either take a look at the video or Murray's website, because you can get a big sense of what he's talking about right there. Because I'm looking at those clouds behind you, and I'm like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Just beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I always have to go right back to people's origin stories. Maybe it is because I don't think that I'm a painter or artist myself, and I did not really achieve creating artist children, even though I feel like I push art so much. So I'm just kind of wondering, Murray, did you come out of the womb with a paintbrush in hand? Did you come from a creative space? Kind of walk me through how you found yourself to be
An artist lineage.
Yeah. Who are you?
Yeah.
How did you get here?
No real lineage that I know of. I started drawing and painting in kindergarten and before with everyone, right? We're all doing that. But then, maybe first and second grade and, through elementary school, I was playing sports with the kids in the neighborhood, always looking forward to doing that, pick up games of football, soccer, baseball, rec leagues. That was keeping me busy and things I've really looked forward to. But every now and then, maybe, a few times a summer, I have this distinct memory of feeling compelled to paint this tree in my backyard. And my mom would help me set up like watercolor. I don't even sure what it is. And none of those paintings survived, I don't think. But I kind of realized that not many people had that same kind of compulsion as a little person. My parents noticed that that's a little different from their other kids, and they put me in class at the BMA, the Baltimore Museum of Art. And I can't really remember exactly what I did there. I would go every Saturday morning, and it was a lot of fun. I think we drew and we paint, but I can't remember what we drew and painted, but it was inside. What I do remember from those days is after class or at lunchtime or some break that we would have, a few of us would scamper downstairs to the bottom of this windy staircase to look at this mummy. And it would freak me out completely. So that is what I remember about the BMA art classes.
I love it.
We were totally freaked out, and we couldn't help ourselves.
Right, you had to do it every Saturday. Terrify yourselves.
Let's just make sure it's still there, because if it's not still there, it might be under one of our beds.
And it's not there now. Something else is in that space. I'm sure it's, they have it somewhere, but it's not. I haven't found it in recent journeys.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. We need to write to them and ask them where the mummy is. I love it.
So then, so going through school, I would be the kid that drew. And actually in middle school, there was another kid that drew and painted, and she was, we were like the art kids. And her name is Gavin Brooks.
Oh, stop.
Right? Isn't that wild?
It is wild. It is wild.
You grew up with her?
That's very cool.
No kidding.
And then that was like middle school. And then in high school, I happened to have an art teacher, and I knew this is what I wanted to do, and I was going to somehow, and I knew it wasn't like a normal career path, but I was taking a lot of art classes, and they were good about that. The school it was just a public school, but it was really good at that sort of thing. And they had a teacher there named James Drake Iams, Jim Iams. He's a local watercolorist, does a lot of Chesapeake Bay watercolors, sailboats, geese and ducks. It could be, I think some of his stuff could be like a duck stamp kind of work.
Sure.
And he took some of us, like the good ones, and there was an advanced class, I guess, in my junior year. He took us out to paint at this historical site not far from high school. And we were supposed to do watercolors, and he said, take little studies, you do a whole thing, but then also if you see parts that are interesting, do a little study. And I had done a pretty good watercolor, and I did this study of how the shadow of an eave was falling across the wall underneath that eave, which was board and batten. So the shadow, it wasn't just a straight line. When the batten comes out, it goes up a little and comes back down. And not really a big thing, but apparently that was a huge breakthrough for a high school student. He made a big deal about that. That painting is someplace around.
That's cool.
And then that was probably the extent of my outdoor painting. And for a while, after high school, I was paying for college myself. I was working in a gas station, and paying to take night classes at the Maryland Institute College of Art. It was, a struggle. I wasn't sure how all this was going to come together, but I knew I wanted to keep going somehow. Took some great classes with Abby Saggiamo in portraiture. We would do these gigantic heads. We'd have to do like a 4-foot portrait of yourself, and you had to spend like 10 hours on it. And there's so much to be learned doing that. You do a few of those, and you learn a lot. But one of the things I learned from Abby was he would talk about how he would do things, and he, when he's doing a portrait, and he's great, he would look for certain parts, and he wouldn't say, like, look for this part and do this. He was very happy with people doing their own thing, but his thing was to look for the zygomatic arch, this, like the cheekbone is what a lot of people call it. And for him, that was sort of a point of reference, and it was like a distinguishing mark in people. Like, okay, this is going to make Jess look like Jess, or Marie look like Marie. If I get that zygomatic arch right, that's a big step in the right direction. And I believe that's true. That's probably a good one. But I feel like that is true also in like outdoor painting. There are certain things that I really want to get right, like the values is a big one. I was living at home then. I After a while, I transferred to Frostburg and happened to be there when there were a great group of teachers that were in the art department that were really kind of passing through, and I happened to be there at just the right time. Cindy Rubin is a great painter. Gary Chappelle, in fact, I was taking down a show, my last show, and while I was taking it down, he was setting up a show, and he's still doing great work, and he hasn't changed at all. He's really a great guy. But at Frostburg, I was doing figures, and I had models and friends, and I had a whole senior show, which was all these, a couple figures, and usually couples that were friends of mine in college and in their homes from college, and a scene that was just kind of evocative of like, I wonder what's going on. We just walked into a scene and these two people are there. I wonder what's going on. It was, kind of an interesting device. But after I graduated, I stayed on. We had rented a townhouse. That's where I was living my senior year. And we paid for it through the month. But I stayed on to the end of the month, which was a couple weeks maybe. And instantly, nobody was there. No friends, no models. And it was, a college is really the people that are there with you. And they weren't there, but the structures remained and the mountains remained. So I would go outside and I said, okay, I'll paint outside. I've been doing figures. People are really hard. Faces are really hard. I'm pretty good at that. How hard can painting outside be? I was awful. I got it completely wrong. I couldn't believe how hard it was.
Wow.
The greens were awful. The values were awful. It was really a shock to me and a humbling experience. So that was good. Want me to keep going?
Well,
That was a big learning.
At least you recognized that you had room to grow.
Yes.
That you
huge rooms.
you could see it, and I can really resonate with sort of the realization of a chapter closing too. I do think it's the people that college is such a phenomenal creative space where you're like in the trenches having this intense shared experience with people, and it's such a unique period of time. So to sort of find yourself with that like being sucked gone and you sort of sitting in the emptiness of that. And certainly you've got beautiful countryside out there. Yeah. So where we are in the story is you have found yourself as a terrible outdoor painter with a college degree. Yes. And all your friends gone. But just somehow you found yourself to win a major prize at Plein Air Easton, the most prestigious outdoor painting competition in the United States. And you're sitting in a beautiful studio space. So something good happened after that.
Yes. And it wasn't just a couple years ago. So staying with the timeline, because this is important, because we're going to make a big jump soon. But right after that, I went home. My brother-in-law had to take a class, or wanted to take a class to advance his degree, and it was being held out in Colorado at Rocky Mountain National Park. And he asked if I wanted to drive across America with him. And I said, yeah, let's do that. And I took along some gouache and some mat board, and I thought, I'm just going to go out there, camp for a month, and paint. And I did that. And I found a way that worked for me. And I grew, definitely as an artist. And I realized that, there is so much to learn here. It was like, wow, there is years of learning to be had outside.
And so your growing up happened on the eastern shore of Maryland? Like when Baltimore County. You're in Baltimore County. Okay.
Yes,
got it.
exactly.
Okay. So the colors, your palette, everything, heading out west and really immersing yourself, you basically landed on a different planet, right? Like
yes.
Okay.
So snow-capped mountains, even though it was June and July, snow-capped mountains, really green valleys, lots of pine trees, some aspen. So I was really, and I was trying to, and one of the things I got to, and this might be good for people starting out, is that let's just simplify things. There's a big mountain out there, and then right below that is a layer of trees, and say below that there's a field. That's kind of simplified. But that's what I was going for. And so all the real action for me was up in the snow-capped mountains, where you'd have one side in the light, and then kind of this violet-y snow in the shade and parts that had melted. And so that was sort of my study for that month. And I learned a ton, and I just committed myself. I think that's when I said, no matter what, I know I'm going to be outside painting for a long, long time, because this is, there's a lot to learn here.
It's just great. I
love
love
that
it.
story too.
Yeah. Well, and I do love that your like connection with values is a theme that's going through here. That it is like looking for the true values of the darks and the lights, and where is the brightest and darkest spot that you're seeing. I mean, you're reflecting on that even from back in Colorado. So that's a cool theme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then after that, I came home, and this is where it gets a little out of chronological order. I'm not sure what it is, but I was awarded a studio at School 33 in Baltimore by the Baltimore Office of Promotion and the Arts.
Mm-hmm.
And I was and that was like a school, and it was like a classroom that was just empty with big windows, and I would go down there and paint, and I would have friends come down and paint. Often I would either paint 2 portraits of them and let them pick one to take home, sometimes we'd go out to dinner afterwards, and I'd take them to dinner, and we'd have a nice time there. So great memories of all that. And even while I had a studio, I was painting outside. I lived in the county. I've always lived, I've never lived in an apartment building. Closest to that was like dorms in college, but ever since then,
perhaps it's my finance hat, but like you're selling these paintings now too. Like you're finding a way, or you're still working at the gas station. Like what is somebody's paying the bills. So you're having these great experiences, but you're also finding a market for these paintings. Yes.
Finding a market for the paintings, and that takes a little while, and
Right.
It's not a ton all at once. But I was doing all sorts of side hustles while I was doing this.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Do you
I was
remember
a sign painter. Yeah.
Do you remember your first sale? Or do you remember that interaction?
Yeah.
Was
Well,
that
I lived in
impactful?
this really great little community. It was like a mill, a 200-year-old mill village where the workers would live. And I think I lived in what used to be an inn. And I just answered an ad for roommates. And it was a really neat group of people, mostly people just out of college. Or actually, when I moved there, I was just out of college. Other people were like 4 or 5 years older than me. But I would paint around there. There was a great big cement pond, which is like a swimming pool that was fed by a stream at one end, and then it would flow back out to a stream at the other end. And it was like 50 yards long and really big. But anyway, I would paint down there, and people in the neighborhood were taken by it, and they were a little bit older, and they could afford to give me $45 or something. So that's how it started.
That's just amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it. I think that we should probably take a break.
Okay.
And when we come back, I think that I really want to talk to Murray some about his application process and doing competitions, and advice that he might have for people putting their toe in that terrifying pond.
Mark your calendars. Plein Air Easton returns for its 22nd annual celebration of art, July 10th through 19th. For 9 incredible days, the charming streets and landscapes of Talbot County transform into an open-air studio as world-class artists capture the beauty of our region in real time. Immerse yourself in a week of creativity, gallery exhibits, painting competitions, workshops, and unforgettable events. Whether you're an art lover, collector, or just curious, Plein Air Easton is where inspiration meets community. Join us July 10th through 19th, 2026, and experience art like never before. Tickets for marquee events are available now at pleinaireaston.com.
Welcome back to the Plein Air Easton podcast. Marie, stop working on your laptop. We're back from our break. And we were just talking about something new, which is in this new year, we have a new producer of the Plein Air Easton podcast. Her name is Cece Davis. She's going to bring you new looks and new sounds and new tidbits. And so we're very excited to be working with her. So I'll welcome her to the team. So we kind of got Murray's origin story, which is about value and connection and experience and tenacity
And growth and hard.
There was not a lot of heart in that.
It was hard when he went out and he was
it was
like,
hard.
"This is bonkers."
It didn't really sound.
Why do people do this?
I don't think so. I didn't really get a lot of heart from you, Murray. It sounded
no.
kind of.
Oh, I did
it
that.
It sounded like the perfect utopian artist experience. He's like, yeah, I'm in a dairy, and then I was in this fantastic old mill, and I lived in the mountains, and I had these fantastic arty friends, and we painted each other. We had fantastic dinners, and like I thought it sounded great. I was like, tell me more about this life. It's amazing.
Sound a little Great Gatsby-ish.
Well, I was surrounded by great people. And I was surrounded by beautiful environments. I lived in a mansion for a while it was falling down, and that was great. It didn't cost much because it was falling down. But that is the good part. And I think it's also good that I was surrounded by great people in great environments while I struggled with this, because it really was hard. Marie got it. She sensed it. It's
She's
like,
more in tune than I am, I think. Yeah.
well,
okay.
you caught your side, Jess, because that part's true too. But the work outside.
I watched too many Hallmark movies over the holidays, so everything is pretty like rose-colored for me right now. Maybe
Everyone's resilient and in love with
yeah,
one
exactly.
another.
It's very romantic, all of it.
All
Now, I
overcoming
would bring in, and
obstacles.
this is kind of common, I would bring in paintings and I'd just look at them and say, I just see all the things that were wrong with it. And sometimes that's all I could see, and that's all there was. But every now and then, and little by little, there were parts that I liked. And I tried to think about why I liked those parts and why I painted them in a way that I liked and why I didn't do that everywhere. So it was a lot of trial and error, really, and a struggle, for sure.
I believe that. So when did you become aware that there were actual painting competitions? Like, talk to me about, like, because it is wild, and anyone who's listening to this podcast is aware that there are plein air painting competitions, but you explain it to somebody, like, competitive painting is, I mean, there's always awards and competitions, but like the extreme sport of plein air painting is something that I think is a little bit like it, when you hear it for the first time, you're like, what?
Yes.
So talk to me about that a little bit.
Sure. So I thought I was just going out into fields and painting, and that I was the only one doing this, not since, France with the Barbizon school. And
Exactly.
I just didn't know anybody else that was doing it. But I was compelled, and I also would find places where I could paint and not be disturbed. Like, I didn't want to be around people. It was so hard. It was, just a lot. And so I'd be off in fields by myself or down trails.
And you didn't want to bring your giant boom box and your big, because back then we didn't have like little ear pods,
No, and you know what? In fact, for a while I didn't have a French easel, and I can't remember what I was doing, but I was going out there trying to make something happen without a French easel. I think I might have been sitting down. I definitely was
Painting
sitting
in
down
your
in
lap.
Colorado. Yeah, in Colorado I did that. But one time I was out in a field, and I did have a French easel by now, and I was painting for a while, and I think he had always been there, but if I looked the other direction from where I was painting, there was another guy out there, an older guy, and I thought, this is cool. Somebody else is doing what I'm doing, and I walked over, and he was doing it really well, and it was Bud Leak, and that guy was phenomenal, and his work continues to be phenomenal, but he's no longer with us. So that was just sort of heartening, and he was very kind and said nice things, and it sounded like he was on the same journey.
Two painters meeting in the wild.
No.
Yeah. So
That
now,
was like a confirmation.
Right.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
So now I'm doing this, and years are going by, and I know he's out there, and I don't see him very much anymore, but I'd see his work. I'd go to openings of his and loved it. Really big, tonalist kind of things. And then I became aware that Raoul Middleman was out there too.
Aw.
And he would, I wouldn't run into him painting, but I would run into him like at the Lexington Market. I remember one time I was having a beer and some oysters, and he sat down right next to me, and I introduced myself, and we started talking. And I would go to his open studios. He would do that like once a year or once every 2 years. It was great, and what a neat guy.
He was a neat guy.
And a neat way of painting. I loved it. I loved all that. Both those guys had these very, kind of brash, kind of put the paint down and just move on to the next spot kind of way of going about it, which is, it looks easy when you see the paintings, but really
Right.
painting like that
Madness,
is super
right.
hard. Yeah.
Very hard.
So little by little, I was starting to feel like, oh, there are other people out there going out into the world and painting, not just in their studios. And then I became aware of Mary Swan, who is great, and John Sills,
Right.
and Michael Bear,
Sure.
and Paulden Hamilton, even more recently. That's over
Yeah.
the course of a decade, meeting all those people. But one time, my local gallery put on a plein air thing, and Nancy Tankersley was the judge.
Right.
And I remember thinking exactly what you said, Jess. It's like, what is this deal? Competitive? So I went out there and I found a great spot. You know, we had a place that we had to stay within. And there were a lot of painters that end up going to that same basic area. And after I had started. And so after I was done, I walked down and I saw this guy's painting from a distance. And I said, you know, that's Michael Bear. And I like this guy's work and I've never met him. So I walk up to him. I said, Michael Murray Taylor, so glad to meet you. I've been admiring your work for a while. And I said, what's the deal with this competitive painting? He goes, I know. It's just a weird feeling. Because
Yeah.
I think we were all at that time used to just painting
Alone.
on our own.
Sure.
Right? And then maybe we'd see each other's work, and that was nice too, but not
Is this like
all at
early
once.
2000s or before then?
2007 is when this was.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So you guys have been going for a while, and apparently this was a whole thing, and this was my first awareness of it.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, apparently there's lots of people outside painting, and it's not just me and a handful of other people.
Right. There's a whole community there.
Yeah. So that one I won first place at, and it was, you know, that was kind of encouraging. And Nancy said this one thing that I always remember. She said, you know, before she announced who it was, she was kind of leading up to it saying, you know, this artist submitted a few paintings and any of them could have been first place. But I get the feeling, but looking at these paintings, that this artist just pulled over the side of the road and started painting. And I'm like, yep, that's exactly it. What else is there? But anyway, so that encouraged me. And the next year I applied to Plein Air Easton. I think she may have been the one to tell me about it. And I got in, and I was super uncomfortable. I mean, the best artists in the world were going there.
And was it your first major competition then? I mean, again, you had participated in this like sort of more regionalized experience, but then you're like, oh, okay, I'll apply, and then you like find yourself at the Super Bowl or something. Like, is that how you felt?
Exactly.
Like you're like, oh, what?
Exactly. We went from a pickup game down on the schoolyard to great. Now you go to the Super Bowl.
And you were in your head about it. It felt like it felt
totally.
terrifying.
Yeah, and I guess I was thrilled to get in, and I'm thinking, that's great. And I looked at the painters that got in and was really impressed with their work, and they're, you know, all diverse and really interesting in different ways. And when I got there, I kind of went into hermit mode, like, okay, I got to go out, I got to go back to the fields and be away from everybody. I don't think I did Oxford. I'm sure I did that, definitely did the Collectors Night, big one.
In my, like, I have been with the festival from the beginning, and so it becomes like this one big ball of plein air, and like all the rules and all the logistics and all the events have not been the same the whole time. So even though you have like some modern day experiences now, it doesn't even mean that those things existed in 2008. But your memories of like, I think that the interesting thing for people who might be on the fence about applying this year, or like they're thinking about taking the next step and competing, all of this sort of like mental gymnastics stuff, I think is really important to share. So you're feeling like overwhelmed, and like you have to lock in, and you have to like go find nature and get away from the social, the intense social aspect that can come along with a festival like this. Am I mischaracterizing it, or does that feel right?
Very good, Jess.
Okay.
You're catching my drift completely.
Okay.
So, and the worst outcome of all that is that I didn't paint the way I paint.
Right.
I was tight and just wasn't super happy with the work I had done.
You got way too in your head about it. Is that what you would think?
Yes. And so, you know, one of the things that I learned from that experience, and the next time I got in, I knew that it was a physically demanding week or 10 days. It's hot, obviously, but it's the first time I painted nonstop. I would wake up in the morning and just paint. And I thought, what I'll do is I'll do a million paintings and pick the best ones that I like. But really, the better strategy for me is pick a couple places and really focus on those 2 paintings, or 3 if you want to have an option, and do a good job of those. And go to Oxford and go to Tillman Island and be a part of it. That's my big thing now. Is I came into this year thinking I am definitely going to plug all the way in and be a part of this. But so the time between getting in more recently,
right? So let's reflect on that for a second. So it's like 2008, and then you got in again, and you've been in 3 times or 4 times.
Was
3.
it 15?
2003.
2008, 2018, and then 2025.
And 25.
So, like, were you applying some years in between, or like, are you somebody who swings and hits every time you put your images in, or did you put your images in sometimes and you get the thanks for coming out email? Like, that can happen to you, right?
Yes. So I applied every year, but I think one of the things that was going on with me is, and this is probably still going on, that a lot of the things that I like, that I think, I'm really happy with this painting, and I got to where I wanted to get with it, or this is what I was going for. I'm not sure if that really appeals to judges.
Who knows what appeals to judges?
Right.
I mean, that's
you
the
just
truth
never
of the
know.
matter.
That's the real thing.
Yeah,
There's
like
no
you
way
can't
to enter that.
I don't think
right.
you can game this. I don't think you can game a blind jurying process, really. Like, and the truth of the matter is, and like, I probably shouldn't say it, but here I am on record, is there are far more than 58 phenomenal plein air painters in the globe. And at some point after a judge winnows it down to a certain number of painters, it could be as simple as, I've seen enough palm trees today and I'm not choosing another palm tree painting. I mean, again, I think that I hate to be like it comes down to a flip of a coin, but at the end of the day, once you've sort of cut the applications down and curated it to a certain point, like, there are fantastic, phenomenal, award-winning, critically acclaimed artists who just don't get in on any given year. And I don't think that artist could strategize a better painting to, like, I just, some of it I think does come down to chance. And I hate to say that because I feel like it marginalizes the great work of people, but like, this year may be your year, but it also may not be your year.
Right,
and you could submit the same set of images both years.
Right. So what I would say is I do think that my strategy was the right one, is like, go with the paintings that I like.
Yeah.
And then if you get in, paint the paintings that
Yes,
I paint
yes.
the way I
Continue
want to
that,
paint
yep.
them.
Well-
Even though it's going to be a different judge.
And I,
right? 'Cause
and
that's offset.
And tell me, disagree with me if you want to, but I also think that one of your lessons from the first year is one that people should take forth too, is you have to paint your process and your style and your way.
Absolutely.
And so, like, if you come in and try to emulate somebody else or listen to somebody else's plan, if you are somebody who, like you said, wants to choose your 3 sites, and there are artists who can tell you the next 3 sites they're going to paint when they come here next time because they're thinking about it. And there are other people who, again, are going to produce 1,000 paintings while they're here and choose the best one. And that is their process and it works for them. But you should not come to Easton and reinvent your process while you're here.
Yeah, that's not a good formula.
The more, exactly, and formula is a good word, Marie. It's like, the more you can say, this is the way I do it. I get up, this is the time I like to paint.
Right.
And just go about, get into a routine and just stay with that routine. The painting, obviously, I don't think is a good idea to be a formulaic, but the steps, the work, getting to that spot and setting up and all that should just be like, oh yeah, this is normal. I walk for a while, I carry a lot of stuff, it's heavy, it's hot.
Right.
Yeah, that's just part of the deal. So for me, getting in, I know it's gonna be hot. There's a physical, kind of competition, sporting event kind of thing that this is gonna be grueling. So I want to be,
it's gonna push you.
yeah, I want to be in good shape physically, but then also mentally, I really need to think about, so I know that I can go into this, I want to be a hermit and just bring my work in when it's all over mode. And I know that it's not good for me. I know I'm better when I'm more engaged, I'm joyful, and that comes through in the painting is is where I got to.
And like, again, apparently I'm feeling very loose with the things I want to say today, but I also feel like, Murray, I felt that on you this year at Plein Air Easton. Like, you have been here before, and I recognized you from before, but you felt more at ease and more engaged this year than you have in prior years. I noticed you more. I saw you seemed more engaged, and you produced like one of the top 3 prize winners doing that. So, I think that that's great advice for people, because I think that this is a time to be pushed, and it is also a time to engage and experience some of it too. So you can't lose sight of the competition and working your style, but I also think some of that engagement can create award-winning paintings, like be a part of the experience too.
For me, absolutely. It's much better to feel a part of the whole event than, off on my own. And one of the things that I did this year, I did a lot of thinking about it, getting ready, is at the opening initiation, whatever that is, I made a point to sit with first-timers, and there were a lot of first-timers.
There were a lot.
Oh, that's so
And
great.
yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people. I'm friends with a lot of the painters there, and I just really wanted to do that because I felt like if I can somehow do anything to cause these people to feel a little bit more comfortable, that'd be good. And that's one of the things I would say to them is, just paint the way you paint. You're here for a reason. But I sat with a lot of award winners. I sat with Joshua. I was at my table.
We actually sprinkled fairy dust in the food at that one table. We just don't tell that that's part of our plan.
Yeah. So he was there, and I forgot the guy's name. Oh, I feel awful about this. He was a terrific guy. He won Oxford of a nocturnal.
Oh, Samsel?
Yeah,
Yes,
James.
yes.
Yeah, he's a great
James
guy.
is great.
Really
Super
nice guy.
Just hung out and talked to those guys. And, that's a bit of time together, having lunch together. And then I'd see them, and I'd always make sure to go over and say something to them at different events.
Check it
Just
out.
Check how they're doing and stuff like that. The pregnant girl was there.
Yes, God bless her.
I know, wild.
Oh, man.
As if it's not hard enough.
I know. It was so sweet. I mean, again, there are tales that come out of every Plein Air Eastern. This was just such a phenomenal one. Talk to us a little bit about the painting that won. I think was it painted at the Inn at Perry Cabin?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So was it a place that you knew you were going to go paint? Like, frame it up for us a little bit.
Okay, let's see where to start. I'll start with one of the things I do every morning is, unless something else is going on, but mostly every morning I get up and draw. And I used to draw a lot with ballpoint pen and tons of sketchbooks, ballpoint pen. And I draw my left hand or I draw my feet because they're really challenging and they're always there.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's a real challenge to draw those things.
We have a terrible board game that comes out like every 5th holiday, and it's like some kind of Pictionary game, but you draw with your nose.
Oh.
Yeah, so you put in these really horrible glasses that have like a beak and then a marker on it.
I remember
And then you
that.
hold a dry erase board and you have to sketch with your nose. So just know you
Wow.
could add that to your repertoire. And
Yeah,
it's like
because
it's
that'll
like
come in handy.
Yeah.
Is this the same game where you wear those glasses and it
No,
flips
that's
the
another
image?
horrible
That's
glass.
another one. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
there's all kinds of terrible tools you could use, but you can just also put the pen between your toes, I guess. I've never even thought of that. Toe Pictionary.
But he's drawing his toes. He's not drawing with his
Oh, I
toes.
totally misunderstood. I thought you were drawing with your toes. And I was
and
like,
my left
that
hand,
is the
so I-
weirdest thing I've ever heard.
I have drawn with my left hand, and that's good too. But
Oh,
no,
see, I thought
I'm
this
drawing
was
with my right hand.
You're
looking at
drawing
my
a
left.
right there.
picture of it. Well, then my story makes absolutely no sense.
Well, no, I
you
liked
could,
it.
but I'm challenging you. But like next time you get into Plein Air Easton, I want to see a
I'll be
painting
the nose
that,
painter.
no, or one that's with your toes, maybe. Like if you've been practicing all, I wake up every morning and first I draw with my right hand and then my left hand and then my toes, and I was like, wow, I've never heard of that. Guess a certain kind of calisthenics.
That's a much better story.
Yeah. No, it's not. No, it's not. I swear I was listening.
Next time he shows up, he's going to be like, that one I did with my right foot.
Do you think that he did that painting with his toes?
Hey, I do know a guy who paints with a brush in both hands, though. And that's
Wow,
kind of
that's pretty
wild
cool.
to me.
I bet that's
Yeah.
wild to watch.
But
Well, go back. So you're waking up to cut that whole section, and let's reflect back on. You have the
that's a good one.
discipline. You have discipline about waking up and sketching every morning, which totally
Yes.
made sense to me until I
Yes.
pictured you doing it with your toes.
And sometimes it's at night, just at some time during the day. Morning's easy because I haven't done anything else. I'm having coffee. I'm just getting the day going. But I'll sketch at other times of the day also, but at least in the morning. But then recently, and I can't say how long, maybe a year even, I started sketching with 3 markers, 3 gray markers.
One in his right hand, one in his left hand, one between his left toes. I
And it's on.
I know, I can't let it go. Okay, 3 markers.
But 2 of them are dark grays, pretty close to each other in value. And then one of them is significantly further up in the light gray area. So they have numbers. So I use a 8 and a 6 and then a 3, right? So there's this big chunk of 4 to 5 that's 4 and 5 that are just not doing anything. And I've been drawing just with those. And some things, you got to boil down what you're looking at into 3 values. And that's a challenge. And I think that's a great thing to get ready for Plein Air Easton, at least for me. And one of the things that I would sketch sometimes is our Adirondack chair that I built a million years ago. And it's white and it catches, one side's very white, the shadow's very dark, and there's a less dark part of it. So I did that. That became like a normal thing to sketch in the morning. So all that in the months leading up to July.
And then you wake up and it's like, oh, there's all the Adirondack chairs and you've been like, I've been training for this one. That's how you felt?
Almost. Well, almost. I would look at my sketches and look at the ones that I liked more than others and ask myself what I liked about them. And the Adirondack chairs often were successful because it broke down into very straightforward values. And they're, it's geometric. And there's all sorts of interesting parts about it. But now, cut back, this is a linear story, but this part comes into play because it's a memory. When we had our kids in the early days, and we had 3 of them in less than 3 years, 2 of them were twins. And it was nuts. And somebody or a group of friends got together and gave my wife and I like a long weekend at the Inn at Perry Cabin. So driving down to Easton to paint, I thought about that. I thought, oh yeah, Inn at Perry Cabin has Adirondack chairs. Maybe I should check in with them and see if that would be okay. And I talked to several people there to make sure it was. And so I knew the first morning I was going to go there bright and early.
When you finished the painting, did you feel like it was a winner? Did you I think that you obviously knew it was a strong painting or you would not have submitted it as one of your 2 competition pieces. But were you I hit that? Did you feel a sense of satisfaction with it? Or were you just kind of okay, I got this. This is a good, give me the scale. How are you feeling?
Yes. So I worked on it 2 days in a row that happened to have the exact same morning. Hot as hell, kind of hazy, clouds, but still bright sun. And the first day, I really liked. I thought I liked the design of it, right? These chairs in the foreground sort of suggest people without people. And things in the middle ground, the sailboat and Maritime Museum, and then things in the far distance. And I thought, okay, I like the way the values are here. That's where I ended up after the first day. And after the second day, I was thinking, yeah, this is a good one. And it's probably going to be one that I submit to the competition list. I do 2 others that I like more.
Sure.
But at the same time,
You knew you had one in the pocket. You said,
yes.
right.
And I think
it's a
for
relief.
me, that's huge.
It's a relief, right?
Yes.
So you're not, you're like, okay, this is at least good enough that I'm going to be proud enough so it could get better, but whew, I got one done.
Yes. For me, that's everything, feeling like, okay, exactly. And I feel like other people feel that way too. Getting the first one done is good.
Where were you in the week, in the process?
Early on.
So when do we have that first meeting? Is that
It's
a
a
Wednesday or a
Thurs-
Thursday?
it's a Thursday lunch.
So it was Friday morning and Saturday morning.
Yeah, early.
Yep.
He
So
knocked
it was
out.
early.
Yep.
But to answer the other part of the question, did I know I had an award winner? Going back to even earlier, there's no way to know what a judge is going
No,
to judge.
of course,
And there have been
right.
many years when my favorite painting in a show didn't get an award.
Right.
And, lots of good paintings, and some are not going to get awards.
Well, again, you're not
I
going to get into Plein Air Easton unless you're pretty good. And as long as you're not having like total dud week while you're here, the body of work is really strong. Like it's anybody's game that week, really, with the conditions and with so I mean, I hear what you're saying too. There's no way to really know. You just have to say, am I satisfied with the work that I did?
And that's what I was going to say. Yeah, I felt very good about that painting. Like, this is what I was trying to do, and yay, let's move on and do others.
I will say that I know the award winners because I have to handle a lot of the logistics with it. And so we have the judging, and then we bring the artists in for a private showing of the competition gallery, where that is when they vote for their Artist Choice Awards. So it's always kind of a tricky night for me because I know who all the winners are, and I'm like always trying to play it really coy. And I saw Murray that night, and I knew that he had won. And like he introduced me to his wife, who is just like a really fun and nice and beautiful. And it was so hard for me not to just square her by the shoulders and be like, are you going to be there tomorrow night? Like, are you coming back? Like, I think you should get a ticket. I was like, just be cool, Jess, just be cool, which I never am cool. So it's hard. But I distinctly remember that moment. I can picture where we were standing at the Academy and like just feeling so excited for you that it was such a good painting, and that like you just seemed so like nice and locked in, and I knew you were gonna win, and I was just like, ah! There was so much excitement in my body for you. So that's my little story from this year.
I remember that moment exactly too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I didn't know anything. You just seemed like your happy self to me. But then you told me that story the next day.
Yeah.
I really wanted to say something, but I knew I couldn't.
Well, I obviously never would, but that was a challenging. I'm not great with secrets. She was not coming to the party, was she? Did she come to the collector's party? No, she didn't come back.
Down at the Tidewater.
Yeah.
I think she was able to watch it. She streamed it.
Live stream
Is that
it.
right?
Yeah.
So she saw that, and I met her there for a drink afterwards. I had my medal on. And,
She screamed.
yeah, she told everybody else in the restaurant, so they all clapped when I came in.
I love it. But no, it was really hard for me to not be like, are you sure you don't want to buy a ticket? I think you could. But then I was like, if you say something like that, then everybody's gonna like. I can't do anything like that. But it was a really memorable moment. Before we wrap up, I think I have two questions. One, I ask everybody because I always want to know. When you find yourself stuck, like if you're having like painter's block, or if you are in a dark time in your life, which again, I feel like your life has been really rosy and spectacular because I'm still in Hallmark mode, but Marie channeled some of the darkness. When you find yourself in a place, like how do you get yourself out of there? What would be your advice if you are feeling low or unsure or maybe a little bit burnt out? What do you do?
Yeah, so yes, it hasn't been all Hallmark at all, and I think hearing someone talk from this spot, it sounds like a very clear linear thing, and it was anything but. It was totally all over the place. But what I do is I do a lot of different things, and it's taken me a while to realize that I can't just paint all the time, and I can't just draw all the time. It's just not. It's like diminishing returns. So one of the things I do is I travel a lot, and I bring my gouache with me now. I used to travel with oil to like different countries. Jill and I, she's a great traveler, and you're right, Jess, she's a wonderful person.
She is. And
she's a lot of fun to travel with. We go to like the south of France because we have family there, and every morning we drive to a little town, and I would paint, and she would, we'd find the town, I would paint, and then she would start looking.
It does sound like a Hallmark movie. I mean, again, I get that I'm in that space still, but like, come on now. And then we just go to the south of France with my beautiful wife and my gouache.
Among the lavender
And there's and then I look at the values and I create masterpieces. I'm like, of course you do.
A little raspberry beret.
But so she would look for a place to eat. She'd say, okay, this is where we're having dinner. I went to
delicious
these
meal.
8 places. This one's good for this. This is good for this. So yes, it was idyllic, and it's why we got married, and that's been really great. But traveling in general whether I'm painting or not, and usually I am, is really good. It's, I get used to the light around here. I like the light in Easton, so great, and the colors and all that. And it's like learning a language, and you go somewhere else, and sometimes you really do have to know the language, but there's a language of color and light that I feel like the more I get exposed to it, it's just like another arsenal. I read about this couple in Washington State, and they both know like 5 or 6 languages, and they'll talk to each other and just grab the right word from the right language in one sentence. And I think about that in painting, that if I've seen all these different great paintings and different ways of doing things, I'd like to just, somehow they're all in there, art history, but also local art and going to museums. And another reason to paint like yourself is going to Easton is like going to a museum. You see all this great work. It's not like going to a one-person show. You're seeing that's great, and that's great in a totally different way, and that's great too. And look at that, they're so different. They're all great.
So your big advice is, if you're feeling blocked, travel somewhere else, move your body to a new space and see it from a totally new light. See a new landscape. Bring in new culture.
I like that a lot, and going to museums. I love going to DC, Baltimore Museum of Art, Philadelphia, New York. That's a normal part of my year.
Getting lots of inspiration.
I think that's great. I know we have a segment that is called Behind the Easel, and it doesn't have to be some funny, hilarious story. It can just be like a piece of like a snapshot of Murray Taylor behind the easel.
Okay.
She got right in there.
I did. Did you like that?
So-
You can try it. You can try it, and you want to frame it a different way.
No, I want to hear the answer.
Okay.
Okay.
Murray Easel. Murray Easel. Murray Taylor behind the easel.
I have funny little stories. Nothing like.
Just give us one.
I bet some people have really good ones. Okay, one. Okay, well, here's one. This has actually got a good moral behind it. There is a dairy farm, an organic dairy farm close to us, and a while ago they opened up an ice cream part. It's mostly a farm now. There's an ice cream little area. And one day I went up there to paint because it's a great spot to paint. And some local car club or guys that have old cars happened to be there. It was like a little impromptu, not really a car show, but they were together. And I said, oh, great, here's a late model or a late 60s Porsche. I like the way the light's hitting it. It's in an interesting shape. I'm going to paint that. So I set up. I'm really good about setting up quickly and get everything going. And I paint, and I've painted like 20 strokes. And the guy comes in to his car, and he looks at me, and I'm like thinking, oh, he's going to say something nice or something. But he apologized. He said, I'm really sorry, but I have to go right now, and I got to go. I said, it's okay. Plenty of cars here. So that painting I just stopped because it's gone.
Right.
And I painted another car, an early 60s Aston Martin, and spent a lot of time with that, got very detailed, a beautiful car, really beautiful car, probably more beautiful than the Porsche. And so at the end, I bring things home, and I like the little Porsche painting so much more. I still like it. It's someplace close. It is just so sparse and only what you need. I learned a lot from that, I'd much rather stop early than go a little too far. And the Aston Martin, I definitely went too far.
I love that. That's a great, there is a moral in there.
yeah.
It's a moral in there. That's perfect. Well,
That
Murray,
age-old question: when do you stop?
yep. The good news is we get to hang out again this year at Plein Air Easton, because while it is an invitational and everybody should apply, I would say there's a few more weeks to get your applications in to apply to participate.
No, it's a juried competition, but
It
there
is.
are 6 invitations.
Right. So what I think makes Plein Air Easton cool is it's not a old boys club. Anybody can get in. Not anybody can get in. You obviously
You
have
got
to
to
have
have
some
cred.
real talent. Like
Yeah.
I could not get into Plein Air Easton, even though I know a lot of people. I could not get into Plein Air Easton because I'm not a painter, but it could be your year, so you should apply. But we do have a few invitations, and Murray is one of them. Murray, if someone is sitting on the fence right now about applying to Plein Air Easton, they're like, I've applied for 15 years, I've never gotten in. They're sitting there and saying, I don't know, like I've never done a big competition before. Maybe I should I apply? Should I not apply? What would you tell them?
Yeah, definitely apply. If I've applied 15 times and gotten in 3 times, I wouldn't say that those 3 times I submitted a better batch of paintings. I felt like every year were strong paintings. And so like we were talking about earlier, you just don't know. If you're happy with your paintings, definitely apply. There's so much learning to be had while you're there with the other artists, within yourself. It's an amazing experience.
And it's fun.
Murray, we're going to
is
set
fun.
you up this year with your own little Zen corner, and you can be the ambassador for all the new artists, because I think I've just appointed you that. We'll set you up in your
Please.
own little
He'll be
corner.
the welcoming. He'll be the Plein Air Easton
Exactly.
new welcoming committee. We'll put a new tag on the bottom of
Exactly.
his name tag.
Truly,
I love it.
Did you suggest the mentorship program in that questionnaire that I sent out for feedback afterwards? Because somebody did say that.
I didn't use the word mentorship.
He's like, oh, but I'll totally
I
co-opt
said
that. No.
something
I'm in.
like that. I said something about be sure to paint the way you paint. Just come
Yeah.
with confidence. But thank you. I would be happy to talk to any first timer or anybody. It's not necessarily a first timer that's feeling stress and feeling like this is my whole life, and you feel kind of exposed, and it's not always comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk to anybody about that.
Thank you, Murray. Thank you for your time today. Congratulations again on winning. Happy New Year. We look forward to seeing you in July, if not before then. We really appreciate you. Thanks.
Happy New Year. Bye.
The Plein Air Easton podcast is brought to you by the Avalon Foundation. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. You can learn more about Plein Air Easton at pleinaireaston.com.